place. Let's start with a true classic of the genre, and it will be The Witcher 3. The plot forces you to plunge into the world of The Witcher, where each character has its own uniqueness, where any dialogue you listen to with pleasure and interest, where it is interesting to simply explore the world around you, where you worry about the fate of not only the main character, but also the characters that you just met on your way. The graphics in the game are excellent, everything looks great, even in 2024. In general, you are greatly surprised when you remember that this game is already almost the 10th year. How could such a thing come out in 2015? The game will definitely not let you get bored for a minute. DLC, as far as I'm concerned, is not worse than the main game itself. It is, you can say, a direct continuation of the Witcher story. The game has amazing scenery and atmosphere. Right now, you can happily replay The Witcher, and this game will again give you new, unforgettable emotions. There are many different events in the game, which depend on your choice. There are many endings, and all of them are unique. Honestly, I'm shocked that many people let this game pass them by. How is that even possible? If you haven't played this masterpiece yet, then you are at least strange people, to put it mildly, who don't know what real quality games are. So go and buy this game urgently, especially since it doesn't cost that much now. Go through it, spend your time, and you won't regret it. You'll thank me for it. You know, this is one of those times when you want to erase your memory to go through the game again. As far as I'm concerned, The Witcher 3 is the game of the decade, and in this genre unequivocally, no matter how you feel about The Witcher. In ninth place is Skyrim, no less legendary than The Witcher 3, if not more legendary. And here it's hard for me to make up my mind. By the way, write down which game do you consider more legendary, The Witcher 3 or Skyrim. There is a special kind of games. Analyzing them by standard criteria is a thankless job. And I would even say stupid. Such projects require a complex approach based more on sensual perception than on dry indicators. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. Skyrim should be evaluated in roughly the same way. A legendary work, possessing a detailed game world imbued with Scandinavian atmosphere, exciting gameplay with a massive exploration element. The boundless expanses of the harsh northern province conquer with their scale and incredible artistic execution. Snow-capped mountaintops covered in frosty fog and warm wooded valleys, unique architecture and sullen burial grounds, cute villages and absolutely different from each other densely populated cities. Often you just stop to admire the local beauty. Skyrim is a successful embodiment of a magical fairy tale in which it is extremely pleasant to be. This creation gives unlimited freedom of action, a huge number of quests and hundreds of hours of adventure. The game has a certain sacred essence that we unsuccessfully search for in modern games, and the name of this essence is soul. For me, this game has a soul. Skyrim is a cultural phenomenon that has had a huge impact on the gaming industry and has not lost its relevance even to this day. Eighth place is a game called Kingdom Come: Deliverance. This is one of the few games that I simply enjoyed playing and being in it in general. Kingdom Come: This is a beautiful and excessively underestimated game in the mass community, especially considering that this is the first project of the studio, and according to my subjective feelings, it surpassed many famous simulators about the Middle Ages. The game offers a lot of positive moments, unique game mechanics, interesting quests at the level of the best open worlds, quality system of character pumping, and exciting setting with elements of historical realism. If you give the game a chance and get through the relatively awful initial 3-hour prologue, where the local drunkard in the village will beat you up time after time without a chance, you'll get a great adventure for at least hundreds of hours of gameplay. Toward the end, I didn't want to quit the game, even though I realized that I had already completed all the quests. The game story was almost at an end and I needed to move on. This is how good old-fashioned RPGs should be done, and no other way. In seventh place is a game called Bannerlord. To begin with, this game is similar to the legendary The Settlers 2, only with a more developed economy and modern graphics on the Unreal Engine 5 engine. You can scrutinize any worker, his work, building. You can even walk through your settlement as a ruler. And it's worth noting that the game is well optimized. Problems I have not observed once, although the developer immediately stated that the third-person view is still unstable. But I had everything worked just fine. With new patches, they also promised to launch and multiplayer. I would like to thank the developer for his hard work, who clearly did not do it for his wallet, but for the people. And this is a great example of how one person without a huge staff, without millions of dollars from investors, was able to make such a great strategy. And something tells me that the game has a great future. In 6th place is Dragon's Dogma 2. The game gives a lot of emotions. It has a spirit of adventure, which is so lacking in modern games. Almost all the negativity about the game, for the most part, is simply invented by unknown people and picked up by others on herd instinct. But as a rule, those who speak negatively did not pass even 10% of the game or even did not play it at all. I'll answer right away. I went through the whole game without a single donation for teleports, but we'll talk about it a little later. The game gives many hours of interesting and exciting gameplay. It consists of exploring the world. I'm not talking about battles, which are very cool. Character classes are very different from each other, and it's quite difficult to choose who to play, as you want to play all and at once. The most similar experience I had was in, although this will not be entirely true, but I have a similar feeling from the passage. About complaints about the plot, there is a plot, and it does not consist in killing a dragon or saving worlds. The plot is more than that, but as weird as it sounds, the story in this game is probably not the most important thing that many people loved it for. The quests in the game are not bad, sometimes with an interesting plot and, as a rule, have several outcomes. There are player complaints about the insufficient number of teleportation stones. Partially agree with this, but I believe that this is a refinement of the developers. Overall, the game is not without its flaws, but it is a very old game, a game about adventures in a fantasy world. They don't make games like this anymore, unfortunately. On the 5th place is a game called Baldur's Gate 3. This is the best game of the year 2023, and this could be the end of the review of Baldur's Gate 3. Every gamer should definitely get to know this game personally. My first playthrough of the game took 190 hours, and it was simply unforgettable. And when it came to the last quests and the game finally ended to the credits and beautiful music, I felt a slight desolation and gradually growing sadness. After all, my adventure has finally come to an end. How many emotions I experienced passing this game long ago. I have not received such a surge of joy, sadness, uncertainty, and pleasure at the same time. A game that I've literally lived in for the last while and from which I didn't want to return to reality. I won't talk about gameplay and RPG mechanics here. The variability here, both in dialogues and events, is so great that I'm just scared to imagine how much time the developers spent on it. And, I've been catching myself thinking lately that this is my favorite game. I have tons of favorite franchises running around in my head that I just adore and am always ready to play them again. This game evokes special feelings. I highly recommend it, even if you are not a fan of the genre. I used to think it was the most boring genre. This game changed my mind. All in all, just give this game a chance and you will understand what I was talking about here. The 4th place is occupied by Mount & Blade 2, Bannerlord. Mount & Blade is experiencing its second youth with the release of the new part. This game can be completed in an average of 60 hours, depending on how you play, and this is only the main story. All the other activities you will be doing in the game can take up a lot of your time, so you will spend a lot of time strategizing, planning battles, and then executing them, and it's not a given that you will win a drawn-out battle. But there are a lot of other things besides that. You're going to have to live in this world. You will have to raise an army, do politics, weapons production, trade, economics, convince people to fight on your side. You will be able to keep yourself busy for many hours before you move on to multiplayer, mods, or whatever else the developers keep adding to the game. This game makes you think and gives your brain a good workout. And once you get immersed in the game and understand what it's all about, it can easily become addictive. So be careful with it. In 3rd place is Elden Ring, the most ambitious game from Software, incorporating the best of the Japanese studio's previous projects. If you're skeptical of gaming press evaluations screaming for 10 out of 10, this time it's very much for nothing. Let there be no such thing as perfect games, but Elden Ring came as close to perfection as it is even possible. The whole game is one continuous improvement of the previous works of the Japanese studio. Here are the same animations and sounds, and there are familiar enemies and even characters, but good or bad, let each player decide for himself. Visual component in this game, without any doubt, this is the best component of Elden Ring. And here I'm not so much talking about the graphics, but rather the environment design. Even unremarkable looking locations together with the musical accompaniment create simply inexpressible atmosphere. It's a huge world with a lot of mysteries and secrets where you can spend dozens of hours without ever reaching the first boss. The world in which, having spent hundreds of hours, you want to return to it again and again to once again enjoy the magnificent battles, mesmerizing landscapes of locations that amaze the imagination, and of course, to touch this real work of art once again. In second place is A Plague Tale: Requiem. I didn't think that A Plague Tale: Requiem would surpass the first part in almost everything, and at the same time my expectations. The same gameplay, the same emotions, and the same conflict that will be resolved as painlessly as possible in the final game. Talented developers created a truly wonderful product, which often made me admire the local views, empathize with many characters in the story, and get goosebumps from the impressive scale of the rats and the horror they leave behind. The graphics became even more remarkable. The world is magnificently detailed. Pay close attention to every detail, especially in urban locations. Everything around amazes with its variety and beauty. The same goes for the townspeople. Phrases, appearance, and occupation make you believe that they are alive. The story is very heartwarming. All these 30 hours I felt as if I was communicating with a friend I hadn't seen for a long time. Her sincere stories and empathetic heart left a slight sadness on my soul. I really hope that the third part will still come out, that in the end, I got a lot of positive emotions from the passage. I didn't want to say goodbye to the characters. I didn't want to watch the credits roll on the screen. Of course, the game already has both fans and haters. My opinion hasn't changed. I think that everyone who likes single-player projects with a good story and unobtrusive gameplay should give A Plague Tale a chance, both the first and the second part. In the first place is Medieval Dynasty. This is a game that will allow you to plunge into the atmosphere of the Middle Ages and feel like a real feudal lord. The game has everything you need for an exciting pastime. A large open world, a lot of opportunities for character development, an interesting storyline, and nice graphics. Especially, I would like to note the well-thought-out system of construction and development of settlements. You can build a house, workshop, warehouse, and other buildings that will help to improve the life of the inhabitants and make the settlement prosperous. But you should also realize that this is a simulator of a commoner. So you should not expect that here it will be about a hero chosen by the gods who saves the world. Instead, you can build a barn, plant a vegetable garden, and go to the forest to hunt. Career heights are not promised to you either. Starting from the position of a homeless hungry man, you will be able to build your farm, but you will have to build it with your own hands, and that's the main point of the game as a whole. I recommend Medieval Dynasty to all fans of historical games and those who want to immerse themselves in the atmosphere of the Middle Ages. It's a great game that will give you many hours of addictive gameplay. And lastly, I would say that there are so many good games in this genre. Gothic, Stronghold, Medieval 2, Total War, Crusader Kings 2, and of course Morrowind. This list could go on and on. Then this video would be 1,000 hours long. So just write in the comments, what is your favorite game in this genre? And remember, this is my subjective list of games. And with you as always was your gamer. Have a nice day.